The dull, unrelenting gnawing deep within his side was no longer a visitor. It had become the brutal master of the house. He lay motionless on the velvet-upholstered chaise lounge, staring blankly at the ornate plaster of the ceiling, listening to the muffled sounds of laughter and the delicate clinking of crystal glasses drifting from the dining room. They were his guests, his family, yet he was separated from them by a chasm as vast as a desolate ocean. The trial of his soul had already begun, stripping away the polished veneer of his successful existence, leaving him stranded in a terrifying, suffocating isolation. The pain was a silent, heavy chain dragging him downward, and the most horrifying realization was the absolute indifference of the world continuing on. He had been a man of law, a magistrate who arranged his career and his marriage with cold, calculating precision. But the shadows were now creeping over the expensive Persian rugs. When his wife entered the room, her eyes did not hold compassion. His suffering was a stain on her perfectly curated social calendar. He watched her adjust a porcelain vase while his own hands trembled. In that agonizing silence, the first vital string within his soul violently snapped, the devastating awareness that he was not loved, merely utilized. When his colleagues from the courts came to visit, they brought expensive, tasteless grapes and faces painted with hollow, lying smiles. Behind their polite inquiries, he could clearly hear the frantic, quiet calculations of who would inherit his title, his office, his hard-won salary. The nights became a vast, unforgiving desert. The rhythmic, relentless ticking of the grandfather clock transformed into the heavy hammer of a judge. He lay awake, staring into the oppressive dark, his mind dragging him back to the trivial moment his doom was sealed, a simple slip on a ladder, a bruise, a stumble, a bruised pride, and now this infinite abyss. The sheer mockery of fate pressed down on his chest. He turned his face to the cold wallpaper and wept silently, mourning the devastating realization that he had never actually lived. He had followed every rule, climbed the golden ladder of influence, but his entire existence had been entirely artificial. Humiliation arrived to finish the work. The powerful magistrate was reduced to the helpless dependency of a newborn. In this absolute, crushing dependence, the hard, impenetrable shell of his vanity cracked open. Mercy arrived wrapped in rough homespun cloth. Gerasim, a young peasant boy, was assigned to sit with him through the agonizing nights. The boy did not offer false hopes, he simply offered his own youth and strength, a vessel of pure, unvarnished compassion. Yet, the internal torment demanded a reckoning. Why this agony? What was the crime? He had lived correctly, he had done what was expected. But a terrifying clarity washed over him. He had been the harshest judge of all, strictly adhering to the law while ignoring the spirit of humanity. For 3 unbroken days, he thrashed against the invisible, suffocating wall of his own demise, pushed downward into a deep, pitch-black sack. Then came a tentative, trembling touch. His young son had crept into the shadowed room. The boy caught his father's frail, thrashing hand, pressed it to his wet face, and kissed it, weeping uncontrollably. In that single, pure act of innocent devotion, the heavy, suffocating sack tore open. He saw a faint, profound light. The oppressive darkness was replaced by a quiet, inner illumination. He tried to speak, to ask for forgiveness, but his tongue could no longer shape the words. He drew his last, shallow breath without a struggle, leaving behind a quiet, profound stillness that echoed with the gentle, unseen arrival of peace.